This is Savio. I've been seeking answers to some of life's most perplexing questions my entire life. In 2014, I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and ever since, I realized my calling existed outside of what I knew to be familiar. This podcast is your home for survivors like myself and those who are searching to find meaning to their why. In Season 2, the show includes a mix of coaching sessions followed immediately by interviews with those from all walks of life who have been successful in the business, marketing, coaching, and financial worlds. The intent is to show the human experience in its rawest form so that others may glean insight. Nothing is rehearsed or has been edited. As a board-certified wellness coach, my job is to ask the deep questions of those trying to make sense of their place in this fractured world. I believe life speaks to us in different ways. Many of us listen but don't know how or where to begin. As someone who has crossed the bridge between life and death, I say simply, begin where you are now and get busy living. If you liked today's episode, I would appreciate it if you could share it and subscribe. Be sure to tag me at The Human Resolve so I can reciprocate in kind. So without further ado, welcome to the Human Resolve podcast. Jennifer Deegan knows all too well the ins and outs of being a mirror to those who come to her for solace and grace. But life often has a way of challenging us to step beyond the comfortable. Faced with a family dilemma, she must tap into a somatic knowing in order to find the courage within. Hi, Jennifer. Good to see you today.
Hi, Savio. Good to see you as well.
Excellent. So what would you like coaching on?
So I am struggling with a relationship with my brother. And it comes on the tails of my father's passing. He died in February of cancer. He had been struggling with cancer for 3 or 4 years and really extended his life well with his own sort of understanding of chemistry and how to heal himself. And so he lived a really amazing, incredible life, and he was such a gift to my life, my dad. And so coming on the tails of that and having a really distressing relationship with my brother, which I never had before, is like a double loss. So I'm kind of working with asking the spirit to help me just kind of trust in this unfolding conflict. And I'm doing the best I can with what I have, but it's hard.
So what I'm hearing is that you are sort of wanting to speak about your relationship with your brother and the challenges involved in that, especially since you're coming off of, unfortunately, the passing of your dad, correct?
Yeah.
So what would be a really positive outcome for today's session?
I guess just, stepping further into a little bit more courage, because my dad's, his service is in the end of August. So we've had one service during COVID and we're memorializing him this summer. And I'm kind of in this fear to step into my whole family in this way. And, just being able to have the courage to know, I've got this, I can do this, even though my brother has told me recently that he wants nothing to do with me. So being able to step into and stay steady with the way I am, even in the face of this whole family gathering.
Yeah. So you want to step into courage when it comes to the dynamics of your family. That would be okay.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, I notice there's a lot of emotions that are sort of welling up. What's happening in your body right now?
Yeah, I'm just feeling a lot, being truthful and knowing it's so painful and sitting with that. So it feels like tightness in my neck and welling of tears and a shift in my voice, but I still feel really grounded. I feel really upright. I feel really okay. It's just pain.
Pain. Would you like to do a quick body scan with me?
Sure.
Sure. Just want you to get comfortable in your seat. If you feel inclined, you can close your eyes or soften your gaze. Just want you to breathe into the different body parts that I mentioned. The top of the head, the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks, the nose, the neck, shoulders, upper body, the arms, the stomach, legs, the toes. I want you to take a couple more breaths in and out. And as you sort of feel into today's question about courage and the relationship with your brother, what's pinging for you? What's coming up?
Just another loss. The loss of my brother.
The loss of your brother.
I feel like he's slipping away.
What has been your relationship with your brother prior to this?
So he's 6 years older than me, and I've been sort of the stability in my family, and the healer, the social worker, the labels that they put on me. But in reality, I've just been sort of stable and, available and present for people. And I think through the loss of my father, he was like the anchor. He was like the steadfast spirit. He was such a loving and compassionate man. And my brother too, he's loving and he's compassionate, but he's just on a different path right now that seems to be, his own grief, And anyway, I was always really good little sister to him, I always was there for him when, his marriage broke up, or, his kids were, not wanting to see him, and there's just a part of me that says, like, maybe you could just be there for me. And he hasn't been. He's just been, like, really dictatorial and mean. And we have different roles, in the face of my dad's passing. I'm the medical power of attorney, and he's the trustee. So he thinks he's, like, got this job. And I know that that job is, like, super important to him. But the way he's carrying it out, it's so messy and so, just really doesn't feel stable at all. So, up until my dad's passing, my relationship was okay, but I noticed that we had differences in a lot of ways. We were on different political fronts, and, he had some, pretty distinct perceptions about the world that I didn't agree with. And so I think there's fear there about, like, what does that mean for going forward? For some of views are just so unsustainable, and I can, agree to disagree. So I'm able to do that. I'm able to agree to disagree. give it some, give it some space, but I guess I'm afraid of the future, I know better. Not, but that's the truth. And a young part of me, it's a young, my brother is 6 years older than me, and it would be nice to have him be a little bit more loving and compassionate like my dad.
Have you ever expressed these feelings towards him?
What I have done through this whole conflict is take a lot of time to respond to writing, because he'll write me these really mean emails. I won't respond to like really nasty voicemails. I take a pause. But my mother handed me the phone when I was there at her house one day, because he was on the phone. She's like, "Do you want to talk to your brother?" And I was like, "No." No, I don't. And the phone just like was handed to me. So I was like checking in with my body, and I'm like, I think I can do this right now. I had just taught a yoga class and I felt really even. And I got on the phone and I just committed to trusting and telling him that I love him, because a part of me is so mad at him. But I said, "Doug, I love you." And I just sat with that, and he said, "I love you too." But I also had to be honest and say, I'm not really that interested in my perceptions, the ways that I disagree with you. It really isn't that important when it comes down to love, that I absolutely love you. And so I have voiced that. And then as we kind of got into the details of me just saying, I just would love really clear, defined communication around when it comes to Mom and your organization as the trustee. Dad left us with mess, and it's caused a lot of conflict. So could I just ask that whatever you do, you keep a clear documentation of it? And then that just goes south, because I think he feels like I'm looking over his shoulder and I'm his little sister. So that's the rub. He doesn't want me looking over his shoulder. And then he gets really mad and reactive and doesn't have a whole lot of skills in the communication arena. And so I take pause and I just like notice that he's like energetically coming at me. And kind of quietly get myself out of there, There's nothing else to be discussed now. But I still step forward in my beliefs, like with my mom. I'm like, "Mom, you need to keep clear documentation, of what's going on. Doug is not the only person in this formula, in terms of taking care." And but it all gets, my mom's memory comes and goes, and it all gets really messy there too, because she has selective memory. And so then I have made some strides with loving my mom and her memory, but I can get pretty rattled there too.
So, in a perfect world, Jennifer, what do you think your brother Doug would want from you?
He'd want me to stop looking over his shoulder and to trust him.
Have you ever trusted him?
Yeah. Yeah, I trusted him up until 6 months before my dad died.
Prior to that time, has he ever let you down?
No, he's let himself down over and over again, but not me. He's been a good big brother. I really haven't needed him that much. Like, I needed my older sister more than I needed my brother. I needed my dad more than I needed my brother. And so, obviously, my dad's gone. So, the men in my life matter more.
Mm.
My husband matters more.
So how do you think you can step into this sort of idea of courage when it comes to what he wants and what you want?
It just seems like I have to keep facing the truth, the storm as it comes and goes, and really not attached to anything, like let go more often of the things I have no control over. I'm willing to stop looking over his shoulder, but I'm not willing to stop talking to my mother, which is what he wants me to do. He wants me to stop saying, Mom, you should keep clear documents. He doesn't want me to say that, even though there's no clear documents. So it's like, I'm not going to stop doing that. I'm not going to stop advising my mother, who I would like for her to sit upright and be a more whole woman rather than, selective memory of what she can and can't do. So there's anger there, because I'd much rather her be upright and full and whole and integrity for herself. But I can't change that. I guess I can let go of that more easily.
In the tug of war between you and your brother Doug, where do you think your mom resides in that?
My mom?
Hmm?
My mom and my brother are like overly attached right now at the hip. And it's interesting, when I check in with that, I don't feel much tension at all. I just feel like, okay, that's what's happening. I used to feel a lot of tension around that. I don't anymore, which is progress. Because it is what it is, right? They need each other. And my mom needs me too. She'd like me to change and be different and not upright and not have a view or a value or a care in the world. But I'm not going to do that. I still have to kind of stand by my values and my beliefs about what's healthy and whole, and I don't have to come at it with when my dad first died, my sister would say I had the foot on the gas pedal, with my convictions. And so I've let go of the gas pedal a lot, and I can feel a lot more instead of just amped up with the gas pedal to nothing else really. Firm in my beliefs, standing strong, got this, all of that. I've definitely let up, and I feel my family unraveling around me as we approach this date for our memorial. My sister's confused, my mother's confused. We can't even really remember what time the memorial is on what day between my whole family, which is so interesting. I had to ask my uncle yesterday, who I'm close to, who's my dad's brother. I had to say, can you talk to my brother and just find out what time the funeral is? Because he's told me he doesn't want to talk to me and that he never wants to see me again. So I'm just following that right now. It's kind of passive aggressive of me, but that's what he left, a voicemail. He said he hated me. He never wanted to talk to me again, and that I had no rights. That's the last thing he said to me. So I was just like, perhaps one of you guys could find out the date for this memorial service, because I have in my calendar this time, but my sister has something different. So there's a little chaos just about that,
So if your brother wants you, if his want is for you to not sort of advocate for your mom, what does your mom want from you?
She wants me to get along with my brother and to stop the conflict and to trust him, which I am, in a way, working on, because I can trust in the divine. Maybe him as a human being I don't trust right now, but I can trust in the divine way that things unfold. I can do that well. So it's just a part of me that gets hung up here. That's why I know that I can find the courage just to navigate the truth of how hard this is and not deny it.
Is there a way for you to resource where this courage lies, or where you would like this courage to manifest in your body?
Oh, I know where it lies. I know it lies. It lies right in the back of my heart. It's totally wide and open and available, and I feel strong in my core. Ooh, yeah, and I feel really, it's okay, you know? It's there. I have the courage. I guess I just appreciate, you know, voicing it and knowing that I do and being real with it. And thank you, because I appreciate you just being present for that. Someone that's brand new to me, you know, someone who understands what it's like to be resourced in the body, and we have the same language.
Do you feel that this courage has anything to say?
No, it just says what it's saying all along, which is trust and, you know, stay in alignment. You know, it is steadfast and, you know, and yeah, rely on like more trust in like the divine. Like, what came to mind is my sister who died when I was younger, who's like my steadfast angel, and she just came alive. And my dad too, like, I feel like, you know, they're just a manifestation of love, you know, to trust in that, just to trust in love. Like, stop arguing with all the ways things are wrong in your head, you know, just trust in the love and let it just unfold, and let the grief unfold as it does, and it'll be okay. So the courage says your heart is steadfast and the spirit is always there.
Your heart is steadfast and the spirit is always there. And to trust. Mm-hmm. So how do you feel, or what do you sense is the next steps?
I think just to keep coming to my meditation practice and calling in my dad and my sister and asking them and the spirit to just be holding me through this. And then I can voice what I need to voice to my mother and my brother. And let my husband hold my hand. Because he's there. To remember who's here right now, you know. I don't have to rely on my brother for everything, you know. I can just give him a little tiny slice of presence, you know. I can be present for everybody else, you know. I don't need to have this be so big.
And when he comes at you with those hurtful words, What do you think you can do about that?
Pause. Take a breath. Feel. Give compassion to myself and to him for whatever we're going through. Move away if I need to move away, and stay standing if I can be in that threshold of tolerating it enough. And just kind of let it wash beyond me, not let it stick to me.
You mentioned the support of your husband. How are other ways do you think you could keep yourself accountable to facing this in the proper way?
Just not denying it, you know. One of my friends who is an accountability partner for me, she's a practicing focusing person, and we share a lot, and she asks the question often of what stands between you and joy right now. And when I ask that question, it's honest answer. You know, my heart kind of, I'm able to stay in my body, not and be in that creative side, and there's no analysis paralysis. It's just sitting with and realigning with and being present with, and then, you know, speaking the truth of what's there if I need to, or just being in silence and letting it come and go, the feelings, and know that it's just grief, you know, it's just change. You know, I might disagree with the way things are going, but it's small in the face of everything else. So maybe the accountability is notice its smallness. You know, it's very small. The grief is big, but that issue is small. And get it, you know, have it contextualized there, that it's not, doesn't need to overpower me in any way. That feels good. That feels complete.
If the grief is small, where's the felt sense for the joy?
It's all in alignment. It's all breathing, moving energy. My heart is upright. I feel connected to something so vast and open and free there. It's big. It's vast.
So Jennifer, we spoke a lot about sort of stepping into the courage and sort of the heart and your family relations. How does this all sort of shake up for you right now?
Feels very centered and aligned and okay right now. It feels like I have the courage to step forward and do what I need to do.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I would love to transition into our interview portion. So tell my audience more about, you know, Jennifer Deegan and what she does.
Yeah. It's really not that different, right? It's just that what I do, I'm a resiliency and somatic coach, and one of the things I do is guide people to find their, you know, transition from something that's really hard into a direction that is more steadfast and resilient and palpable for long-lasting living. And so it's stepping into trust and courage, and I offer what I would call the somatic mirror and presence to help people find a mindful map or a direction that they want to go in, whether it's, something in their professional life that's not sustainable, they're over caretaking, they're not caring for themselves, or their personal lives have come kind of shattered in front of them. A lot of my clients come in and say, I'm so disconnected. And so everything we do is embodiment, just like you, and being present with and carrying an anchor, a place of safety for people to really feel safe enough to be with whatever is there. My joy is working in groups, and so I have a resiliency club where I allow people to step into their truth regularly with some support and accountability, and other people who are doing the same thing. And we work on these 6 pillars of resiliency to anchor ourselves in some accountability around what is that? What's your vision? How do you stay steadfast? What are the regulatory tools that you need to stay composed in the face of challenge, like your brother cutting you out at the knees? And what kinds of supports do you need? Who do you rely on? Maybe the people you're relying on aren't really helping you stay anchored in what you believe in, what you value most. So we talk a lot about that. And how do you invite in creativity in the face of a really big problem instead of staying in analysis paralysis? Or what are your health practices that support you? Your sleep is a big one, right? And what are you nourishing your body with? And including, obviously, what are your practices with the internet? Because that's so activating. And we can get a big dopamine rush, right, from looking at our square boxes all the time. And maybe we don't know that, but it doesn't help the sleep factor if we want to sleep well, so that's what I do. I also run yoga retreats all over the world. I've been doing that for about 12 years now. And so I have a retreat coming up in Costa Rica. It's called
Wonderful.
Rainforest Renewal in January. And I live in Vermont, so I have local one-off, half-day retreats I do here to help people reset their nervous system. So if you're always on autopilot or in a automatic response, kind of fight-flight way, we need to learn the inner resources to retool and find, again, those markers of support, those inner resources that really are steadfast for us. And that's different for everybody, as you know. And for people who are listening today, I have a gift for you if you'd like. It's called, you just go to podcastmindbodyawareness.net, and there's a little free meditation for you to go on life with purpose. It's a meditation called Power and Purpose. And so if you did listen to Savio's interview with me, you can be offered that meditation.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind. As a society, collectively, all of us throughout the world has gone through something huge and massive. So as a resilience expert, what are some tips that you can give to get people to some form of normalcy?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that I stand true to is to recognize that this painful moment is a gift to help you move through and find out more about a more sustainable way of living. So any really big moment of pain, in the Buddhist tradition, is the gemstone of our lives. It's there for us, not against us. And I know that to be true. It's steadfast. So thinking of moments as gifts, and my clients shake their heads at me, and I'm like, I know again, here I go again with this gift is here for you. And it does help shift the mindset, right? That if it's meant for us, we can stop resisting it, you know. And the other thing is, you know, when I went through a difficult time where my son had a painful death in his life, it was a moment similar and difficult as the one with my dad and my brother. And one of my friends said to me, you know, have you sat with that? And I was like, oh yeah, I should sit with that. Like, be my own teacher. So I went and I sat down in my room and I sat with that. But I asked the question, why now? What is this meant for me? So kind of asking another question, which is, you know, what is this meant for me? Because I do believe that it is a gift, you know. And in my meditation, I just started to really well up and cry and kind of, you know, the waterfalls came and left. And then I was like, oh, it's to remember and trust that we are always resilient and that I'm here to help people see that. You know, so my why is the most powerful part of my heart is the deepest pain, to know that we are innately resilient to begin with, and that we just have to find our way back home to what is trusting and steadfast. And so lately, for people out there, you know, the things that my clients have been finding that they can trust and be steadfast about, and I find them to be pretty simple, is can we trust in the steadfast nature of Earth's gravity below? Can we feel it under our feet? Can we feel our tailbone now? Some people say no, not yet. So okay, I get that. Not yet. You know, like a resistance to even trusting in that. And then the second thing that I've been really honing in on that I can trust in is the powerful magnetic quality of my own heart. It's very similar to the center of the earth. And I can actually relate to them both. They're both superpowers, right? So some people can relate to that because it's kind of magnified, you know, in certain moments. I had a client yesterday go from a place of feeling closed in the heart and sort of shut off and disconnected to a place of perhaps feeling a little bit heavy in the heart to a softness all in 1 hour.
Wow.
So it's normal for when we connect to our hearts, for the heart to shift in our presence with, and also recognizing that, you know, again, it's a principle in Buddhism to be resistant right away. Like, that's the way we protect ourselves. We close down, right? So, you know, what are the anchors? What are the things that are steadfast that we can always rely on? And to me, it's the center of the earth and it's our heart. And a friend today that I was walking with, what she could anchor into was the landscape of Vermont. She couldn't anchor into the earth, but she could anchor into nature. And that's true of many people I talk to. Like, I can feel my feet on the ground, I can feel the grass, and I can connect to nature. I feel alive and whole there. So resiliency is about recognizing, first of all, that we're already in momentum. We are resilient. We are meant to be able to be flexible and to bounce back. However, there's something that has to happen first, which is to be open to it, you know. And that might take time. It might be a small opening to recognizing our resilience. And then once we do and we start to open up, we can find a more of a map to living more wholly and fully and grow our resilience. That's the beautiful thing about resilience, is we can grow from our traumas, our triggers our past experiences, our pains, our anxieties. That's just information right now that's helping us recognize it's not sustainable.
I would love for you to sort of speak to, most people consider the heart a very biological, physical thing. And sometimes people have a difficulty when you ask them to tune into it. What have been some of the aha moments or ways that you've allowed your clients to connect to that deeply?
Well, it's interesting when we talk about the energetic heart, it's really in the center, isn't it? It's between the two, the back of the heart is between the two shoulder blades, or it's front to back in the center between the two breasts. And sometimes just bringing our hands to our heart center helps us shift our awareness that it's really not biological heart. I never find in yoga classes when I'm teaching that question really comes up, not even really with my clients. They seem to sense into it because they're already sort of present to a felt sense that's already going on. That's why they're there. But I mean, it's based on the Anahata chakra, and it spins in this color green, and all these energetic centers, when we align to them, they're very subtle, and they're very ancient in terms of the practices from the Eastern tradition. But, some of us can feel the roots, and that's our connection to the earth. Some of us can feel the heart. Some can feel a sense, a felt sense, an intuitive felt sense, which is like the third eye. Or our connection to the divine, which, again, is like represented as 3 inches above the head if you're talking about an energy center and alignment to something greater or a light. But there isn't a right or wrong with this. It's sort of what is calling in right now. What do you relate to is really the work, right? It's the recognition that it's already there, and that we kind of have so many ways in which we distract ourselves. We just need an opening just to listen in. And that listening is more subtle, isn't it? It doesn't, and sometimes language can be limiting. So I recognize that what I say may not be completely right, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. Like, what do you relate to, Savio, as the heart?
It's really interesting because for someone like myself, and I'm very open about it, I used to live in my head for a really long time. It's only until I sort of learned and educated myself and used these as practices that I realized that there's an intelligence there. I mean, it sounds maybe hokey to a couple of people who are not in the embodiment circle world and most people, but if you really listen, there's a deep inner wisdom there. And I always tell them to treat your body as a stranger. It sounds odd, it sounds strange, but that's, for me, how I did it. I didn't know what I was experiencing or if it was real or not. Then I got more comfortable with it. I just say, just listen. Listen, like, without the ears. Listen to another way of listening. Like, find another, even if it's a sound or a ping or something. And I often find just start small. It doesn't have to be this, message you would get if you called someone on the telephone. It could just be a word. It could even just be a phrase. That's just what I sort of found in my work, especially when dealing with individuals who, to a large degree, really feel like they take the heart for granted until something devastating happens, physically to them. But that's really been a great resource for me to find out that beyond my brain, which I've relied on for so long, that there is another intelligence there.
Yeah, and so when you say there's another intelligence there, what happens for me in my body is I feel energy right down the center of my heart. But that wasn't always true. So you're right. It's important to remember that it's like the fine-tuning of a guitar. If we practice presence and listening, and we have the support around us of others who are helping kind of us hone that listening with support and trust and kind of encouragement, having a tribe around us that keeps us on that path helps, because we're going to get popped right out when we go into a familiar environment where we always adapted in a particular way that caused us a lot of pain. We have to find those resources. That's great practice. Like me going to my dad's memorial service is going to be a great practice. Even now is a great practice because it's getting closer. So I have to practice with something that's hard right now. And I do see that as a gift. There's no question. Because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have the material of life that's required for me to do the work that I do with my clients. I wouldn't have enough sort of practice of like the keys went off. Ooh, that was like a E flat. That sounded bad. So I have to like deal with the quirky of my own heart, If I'm not real, if I'm not like, blown over by a storm every now and then and having to pick myself back up, I don't think that I can be as effective as a resiliency coach if I don't have things that make me fall down. I've had plenty. I've definitely had plenty. I'm not asking for more. Wait, I'm not asking for any more.
Well, like a good friend always said, like a good friend always said to me, problems of opportunities to grow. And I didn't quite understand it in my early 20s, but I definitely understand it having gone through what I've gone through the last 20 years. So I definitely see it as a challenge, but also as a blessing to some degree, even though in the moment it's not always that feeling.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. Tell my audience where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Savio. It was really a gem for me to open up and to share my messiness, my struggle with you. I'm at mindbodyawareness.net, and you can look at the Resiliency Club at www.restoringresiliencyclub.com, and of course the podcast.mindbodyawareness.net is for you if you'd like a free meditation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really, really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you.
Hi there. I really hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast episode of The Human Resolve. If you feel that others may enjoy this episode as well, please share socially at The Human Resolve. They can also visit my website, thehumanresolve.com, where I offer one-on-one coaching sessions, daily prompts to move you in the right direction, synced directly to your smartphone, and a subscription to my weekly newsletter where I probe into the secrets from living smarter to feeding your 3 brains. If you could also help me out and give me a review and rating on this platform, because I do care what you have to say, I would really appreciate it. Now, get out there, my friends, and get busy living.